The Dental Download podcast is your source for insight from conversations with fellow dentists, specialists, and leaders in the industry. With new episodes every Monday morning, I'm your host, Dr. Haley. Let's get into this week's episode. All right, everyone, we're back to talk about the topic that might not seem interesting, but is very, very important, and that is disability insurance. Now that I'm finishing dental school, it's a very real topic and something that I spent months and months thinking about and learning about. So we have Jim here today. Do you mind introducing yourself and what you do?
Not at all. Good afternoon, Haley. Thanks for soon to be Dr. Schultz, right?
Yes.
Thanks for having me on today. It's nice to see you again. We've obviously got to know each other over the years. I think we originally met maybe through Dental Nachos or one of the places like that. But so my work, I help folks like you and your listeners learn about, get educated on, and implement disability insurance. That's my main event anyway.
So if you were talking to a current D4, which you've been doing a lot the past every year basically, but what are like the key things you want to tell them when it comes to disability insurance? What do they need to know?
I think it's important that you learn as much as you can about the topic as early as is comfortable. It's really funny. One of the conversations I have with a lot of folks is, we might have met over the years at the different schools I've visited or become familiar with. And until this topic really becomes top of mind, meaning like, oh, it's real, I'm really going into the real world now, or starting my residency or whatever the next step is, that's when this really becomes just more germane and like front of mind. Sure, lunch and learns are great. Free pizza is great. But I ask people, like, tell me what you already know or what you remember. They're like, frankly, during my D2, D3 year, I know I had lunch and learns on this, but now is the time I really want to learn about it. So if you're a D4 and you are just getting started, meet with me or someone like me, get educated on the topic, understand what it is that you're purchasing, and know that the words really do matter in the contracts.
So if you're comfortable sharing a few maybe anecdotes of people that, like, I know so many of us, we're young, we're healthy, we're just starting our career. We can't imagine like becoming disabled, especially maybe we don't have a family history of anything. Has there been any specific stories that stick out where people came back to you and are just like, I'm so glad I got this plan, or specific elements of my plan?
For sure. So one of the really important things, I call it the superpower of these disability policies that are available through different companies, is an increase option rider that you can include. And if you're healthy enough when you're 25, 26, 27, 28, or whatever age you are when you're graduating from dental school, of course, there's some non-traditional students as well. But if you're healthy enough to buy a policy that includes one of these increase options, it's so powerful because things can happen. It's not like a cup of coffee. You go to the counter, you order it, you give them the money, and they give you the cup of coffee you wanted. With disability insurance, there's a whole audition. There's medical questions. There's career stuff. But if you're a dental student, we know you're heading into a career of dentistry, so you can get a free pass on the career stuff on that one. But really, having your health locked in when you're first graduating and being able to buy new policies later is huge. And anecdotally, my goodness, I have really nice stories, and I have some kind of not so great stories of people that either were going to buy a policy and they're like, let me just hold off. I just want to wait until I get a little more money. I don't have the $80 or $100 or $150 a month to spend for this. And then they have something like a car accident happen, or a needle stick, or you name it. We work with lots of people, so I've got lots of different examples. But the opposite of that, Haley, is people that have bought policies, had something happen, and then they can increase their benefit, even though they've got some health history that's changed and not for the better.
So one thing I noticed you were talking in the beginning about like lunch and learns and everyone that comes to talk to us at school, and maybe we don't really even try to understand why we need disability insurance until it's time to get the policy, like towards middle end of fourth year. But there are a lot of different insurance agents, and then there's different plans that the insurance is actually through. So how do we deduce like which agents we should go through, and like what are different maybe things to look for? Like, I know you are really big on educating the students you're working with and like going through the contracts with them, but what are some things we should look for to feel comfortable with our agent, or things to maybe ask our agents to figure out who we want to work with?
I love this question. So my advice is meet with as many people as you have the wherewithal for. I realize there does come a time of fatigue and so forth, but work with the person you're most comfortable with. Think about it like this. You're going to work with this person for the next 10, 20, 30 years of your life on maybe just disability insurance. Sometimes I help my clients in just a silo of doing that. But sometimes we work with things like life insurance or investments or practice purchase, different things like that. So my advice, certainly work with somebody who's dental specific because it's very nuanced, but also work with someone that you literally like and get along with, but also is knowledgeable and I think takes the time to explain things to you in a way that you feel most comfortable. So yeah, do your homework. That's my advice.
Some of the key things that I think are interesting about disability insurance and what we're looking for when we're getting the plan is that it's true own occupation. Can you explain that? Because I think if people have never heard of the topic before, like that's like the main thing you need to understand and be looking for.
So true own occupation really means, in my opinion, two things. One is when you first get hurt or sick and can't produce dentistry like you did before, when or how does that kick in your benefit? And so it's defined as if you can't perform the material and substantial duties of your own occupation, the job you're doing at the time of disability. So one of the things you and I talked a little bit about in our pre-talk here and other times that we've spoken has been about your income and if your income will be just dentistry or podcasting as well. And so that's an important delineation because the income you have, your own occupation is going to be dentistry. Maybe for the most part, we'll see what happens with your career. But that's the thing that people need to be aware of is what they're doing at the time of them being hurt or sick defines whether or not they'll be paid for the long run. So here's the example. Let's say that you are a full-time general dentist. You're earning $200,000 a year. You got $10,000 coming in a month of the disability policy because you got hurt. And then you go work at the local dental school, or you do your own podcast, or whatever the case might be. These aspects can offset if you're not careful. So having a true own occupation definition makes a difference to whether or not you get the full $10,000, tax-free, by the way, tax-free, if you pay for it with after-tax money. And then if you can add that additional income from a new career. But again, it's a little tricky when you're already doing something, kind of like, what we talked about. But that's important. True occupation is super important for a medical professional.
And on that topic, so I think I personally started actually like meeting with different agents like you recommended and seeing what quotes they were giving me, even if it was through the same carrier. But you should be getting pretty much the same quote if it's the exact same plan, in theory, if it has all the same conditions in it. But when do you think people should start that process of meeting with a few different agents and figuring things out?
So you can start that process anytime. Like even your D1 year, you can get educated. Most carriers will let you look at or will consider selling you a policy when you rise to a D4 in like May or June, whenever graduation is. I think one or two of the schools in the country are actually an April graduation, to be honest with you. But so that's a good time. There's one carrier, I'm not going to name carriers here on the podcast, but there's one carrier that will actually sell you a policy in your D3 year. And I've helped people do that in their D3 year. It's rare, not a lot. People want to spend money during school because there's no income. It's all outflow. But they are locking in that insurability, their health. So it's prudent to do, but it's also this reality of that, cash flow out. So I'd say D4 year. And then, I've helped people from just rising in June to even now we're doing, kind of first time consults, if you will. And sometimes people buy, I'll say never, but there are times that I'll meet with them 5 years after they graduated. It's like, I know I should have done this. I'm just getting to it. And that's fine too. The best time to buy, Haley, is now, as soon as you can.
Mm-hmm. And that was a good point. That was the next thing I wanted to ask you. So let's say people didn't make the ideal decision and get it when they were as young as they could be, the very end of dental school, something like that. So how much, generally speaking, like, is the cost going to go up if you're waiting 5, 10 years to start a policy? Because I have friends that are like, I don't really want to deal with it now. And I'm like, please consider it because you're going to wish you did.
For sure, yeah. So it depends on so many factors: your gender, your age, as you just mentioned, what state you live in. We talked again before the podcast started, but if you're currently a D4 at Michigan and you're moving to California after, buy your policy while you're still in Michigan. California is one of the most expensive states to start a disability policy in. If you're currently in California, moving to, say, another state, you might want to use your new address as you're going to a new job or a new home. Um, I have one client who actually owns practices in 2 states, and the state that has the better pricing is the one we use. So anyway, to answer your question, is there a percentage? There probably is. I don't know it. I just know to say does it matter is a little bit flip, and I don't mean it that way. What I really mean is, what I really should be saying is, you should do it as soon as you can. And if you roll the dice, well, you saved that money during those years. So I'm not going to say you get extra money now to spend on disability insurance, but it's a prudent thing to have. It may never happen to you. If I had a crystal ball, I'd tell exactly who to buy it and who not to buy it, but I don't have that. And claims are real. Dentistry, you're going to pay more than other industries. If you're an accountant, it's relatively cheap. If you are a dentist, especially a general dentist, you're spending more. Your specialist friends, they're spending less on their disability policy because the claims happen less frequently. Still happen, but it's less frequently. And so the other thing, just since you probably have some resident people listening, if you're heading into residency, meet with me or someone like me and make sure that you're getting the right categorization as far as, like, are you a resident or are you a general dentist or are you, a dental student? Because it can affect your rates for the better.
That's interesting. Yeah. Because people say and assume that it's like fairly expensive, and it is, depending what your version of expensive is. But the reason being is because so many general dentists do end up making claims because it is such a physically taxing career. Like, that's why it's expensive and why it's an investment. But there is, unfortunately, like a high probability that we will need it at some point.
Unfortunately, it's true. So yeah, you need your wits and you need your physical being to be a dentist. Like, it's one of the most demanding careers there are, maybe except for like underwater welding. I don't know. But yeah, maybe I'll change that to my next niche, if you will.
And also, what's the situation if, let's say, someone signs up for a policy going out of school, and let's say 2-3 years, they're like, I think that this is not right for me. I want something different. How does it look if they go back to an agent and they say, I want to get a new policy through like a new carrier or something else? Obviously, you're getting quoted at your current health and age, but is it negatively affected in any way because you've had another policy before as well?
Oh, great question. So first of all, the default should be don't change. Like, whatever you bought when you were 26, 27, 28, that really should be the policy you carry for the rest of your career, unless there's some material advantage for you to change. But to answer your direct question, there's no disadvantage. There's nothing, like, a company doesn't say, oh, you got a different policy from somebody else, we can't possibly, but we're going to ding you for that. But it's going to be a pretty compelling reason to ever change. You get to carry discounts from when you were younger. You get the younger rate. You bump up your policies, and again, not naming companies, but all the companies let you bump up over time if you have good health in the first place. So no, pretty much you're not going to do that. But if that happens, no negative. Yeah.
And for people that don't know, once you meet with an agent, you go through maybe some of the different options for carriers. You select what carrier you want to work with, then you're working on like what you want included in the plan. After that, what is the process like till you actually have a disability plan that you are paying for and it's all ready to go?
Sure. Great question. I love this part too, because I think, again, you should meet with lots of people. I think our process is, I won't say it's unique, but I think it's a good one. Obviously, we wouldn't do it if we didn't like the way we do it. So we're very educational, very collaborative. We help you understand what the different aspects of a plan are. As we get a plan kind of started, we actually open our software in front of you. Rather than me sending you quotes, I'm going to open my software and let you see what the quotes do in real time. And I think that's very collaborative, and I think people appreciate that. So sometimes people just send quotes and say, good luck. If you have any questions, let me know. And that's, consider the world of dentistry. Imagine if your dentist, wasn't very collaborative. I think I prefer my dentist, and I love my dentist. Very collaborative. Explains what's happening in my mouth, and these are my options, and we work together to come up with a solution within reason. I'm not, obviously, a technician or didn't go to dental school, so there's an element of trust, and I think that's true of me as well. But yeah, did that answer your question? I don't know if that answered your whole question.
Yeah, it did. Okay. So I will put the link for Doctor's Disability Specialist in the description. And if you want your email, I could put it in there too. But is there any final advice or message you want to give to the dental students when it comes to this?
Yeah, it's just like we've talked about in the past. When you're first going to dental school, what are some of the things that will get you during this kind of season of finishing up all the requirements, inviting your family to graduation, getting your disability and malpractice and all those different insurances and ducks in a row, so to speak. And you find out, man, I shouldn't have gone to the chiropractor 3 years ago when I went, or things like that. So if you're a current dental student and you're looking at, your future, certainly don't let the tail wag the dog. If you have a medical need, go see your medical professional. But if you don't need to go see that chiropractor, if your back isn't, racked and you just kind of were doing some preventative maintenance sorts of things, those things will get you on the application in the long run. So that's, I guess, my advice. And then I'll just give my phone number now too. You can certainly reach out to me, 207-671-2216. That's the way you can reach me, or my email, which I think you're going to put in the link anyway. So
awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Haley. Great to see you again. Congratulations on everything happening in your life. It's very exciting.
Thank you. This podcast is for informational purposes only and is not to be construed as tax, legal, or investment advice. Although the information has been gathered from sources believed to be reliable, please note that individual situations can vary. Therefore, the information should be relied upon only when coordinated with individual professional advice. Guest speakers and their firms are not affiliated with or endorsed by PAS, Guardian, or Doctor's Disability Specialist, and opinions stated are their own. Guardian, its subsidiaries, agents, and employees do not provide tax, legal, or accounting advice. Consult your tax, legal, or accounting professional regarding your individual situation. All investments and investment strategies contain risk and may lose value. Registered representative of Park Avenue Securities, LLC, PAS, OSJ 900, Stewart Avenue, Suite 500, Garden City, New York. 11530-156-74-55600. Securities products offered through PAS, member FIRNA, SIPC. Financial representative of the Guardian Life Insurance Company of America. Guardian, New York, New York. PAS is a wholly owned subsidiary of Guardian. Doctor's Disability Specialist is not an affiliate or subsidiary of PAS or Guardian. CA Insurance License Number 0161892. AR Insurance License Number 5747747. 2024 173458. Expires 0426.